the GI tract. And again, we do have some accessory organs that we will be talking about along the way. The esophagus is part of the actual tube in which food travels. So the only function of the esophagus is to make sure that the food gets from something called the pharynx, which is the back of the throat, into the stomach. The stomach then starts really the chemical breakdown of food. Even though the mouth has salivary amylase that starts chemically digesting starch, we really don't chemically digest too much in the mouth. But in the stomach, we have a very important enzyme. It's called pepsin. It's one of the few enzymes that don't end with ASE, but it is specific to breaking down protein. And so there's a conversion of pepsinogen because your stomach is acidic. Pepsinogen comes into contact with acid and is converted into pepsin. And so we are going to start breaking down proteins into those amino acid segments or monomers. And so when we do this, the food is being chemically broken down, but it's also being mechanically broken or mechanically digested because it's being churned. And when it's being churned, it is being mixed with acid and pepsin, etc. And it turns into this kind of pasty stuff called chyme. And chyme then is going to go into the small intestines. So this is a picture of where the esophagus meets the stomach. And you can see that the stomach is a very, very muscular organ where you've got lots and lots of muscles that's going to be able to contract so we can churn the food. And then you have something called rugae. And rugae are these little folds that you're going to find in the stomach. And we're going to see these in the cat. And then eventually it's going to come into contact with something called the pyloric sphincter. You have these sphincter muscles that are circular muscles that are regulating how much food or chyme can pass at any given time. And then it's going to go into the small intestine in order to then be digested even further. The microscopic anatomy of the stomach, it has all kinds of things going on, but you've got these cells, chief cells, parietal cells that are involved in allowing for the digestive enzymes to be released. The stomach lining, because the stomach is in hydrochloric acid has about a pH of 2. It's very acidic, and in order for your stomach not to digest itself with the acids, it has a really, really, really thick coat of bicarbonate-rich mucus. So it's lined with this mucosal lining, and that allows for us to keep it from basically burning a hole in the lining of the stomach. And bicarbonate-rich ions are going to neutralize or help neutralize that hydrochloric acid. And because it's lined with mucus and it's a mucosal lining, it is epithelial tissue that makes that up. And epithelial tissue, if you can remember, regenerates very quickly. So those cells are constantly undergoing mitosis. Now the stomach itself, it holds ingested food. So you chew it, you swallow it through the esophagus, and it's going to hold it. It degrades the food both physically, so there's mechanical digestion and chemical digestion, and it's going to deliver that chyme to the small intestines. And we're going to digest mainly proteins. And then it helps you absorb vitamin B. Now once it goes into the small intestines, then we have a problem. So in the small intestines, we don't have that really, really thick mucosal lining. And so it can't take the hydrochloric acid, and chyme is very, very acidic. So when we're going to place the chyme into the small intestines, it has to be neutralized. And so there's going to be a neutralization process where we're going to neutralize the chyme so then it won't burn through the lining of the small intestines. The very first part of the small intestine that attaches to the stomach is called the duodenum. Then the majority of the small intestine is called the jejunum, and then the end of the small intestine where it's going to come into contact with the large intestines is called the ileum. Now, one of the important parts of the small intestine's job is to absorb all of the nutrients and most of the water from your digested food. And so what it does, or what it has included in it, are villi and microvilli. And what this does is, because it's folded, it's going to increase the surface area so it can do more in a smaller space. And again, think about your intestines, your small intestines. They're very, very, very folded. And so you can actually place more intestine into a small space. So villi are actually extensions of the mucosal lining. It does have a mucosal lining. It just doesn't have a thick bicarbonate-rich mucosal lining to neutralize the acid. And then it has microvilli, and this is at the cellular level. So this is at the mucosal level, the villi. The microvilli are actually at the cellular level, and each of the cells of the small intestine have microvilli, which are folds on top of the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. So we do have some related organs, so meaning that we have some accessory organs that are going to be helping the further digestion of food and then absorption of the nutrients. So we have something called the gallbladder. The gallbladder is attached to the liver, and it is going to produce bile. And bile is going to then help us to further digest certain things. We also have something called a pancreas. And the pancreas is really important in forming most of the digestive enzymes that we use to digest our food and break it down into parts that we can use. And here's just a picture of the villi and the microvilli. So the villi, you can see, is actually in the wall of the intestine because it's in the mucosal lining. And then here is the microvilli, which is at that cellular level. So this is one cell, and you can see the extensions, the folded extensions at the plasma membrane.